Your main man and/or Wood, the deity of mayhem and destruction, returns to inflict aggravated wounds upon your mind. Today, we will be talking about Faiths and Pantheons for the Forgotten Realms. This book originally retailed for $32.95. Good Lord, that's a lot of money. Good Lord. Chance of Chris Rock there. And the symbol circle on the back. I think the cover art. I actually particularly like the one on the back. I mean, that just looks kind of cult there. Kind of interesting. The book itself, I thought was even though, let's face it, for that kind of price, it's only 223 pages. That's kind of on the small side. I liked it, although it does have the hairy spider. They just dumped a new monster. Oh, a new monster. Because when you buy Faiths and Pantheons, what you're looking for is a new monster called a hairy spider. Yeah. So instead of actually adding more, the places, of course, they talk about the human gods. And they talk about demi-human gods as if anyone wants to bother with that trash. I'm not fitting to worship Kurin Larethian. I'll tell you that right now. But I'll get into why that's a problem later on. Actually, maybe be a little serious. I don't know. Probably not, though. Places of worship in Chapter 3 I thought was very interesting because they detail some of the temples, the monasteries. They go into more depth on these places, which gives you a great idea. They talk about the Abbey of Swords right there, right off the bat. It's, of course, in Battledale, and it is dedicated to the grand glorious god Tempos! As Big Staff Hatcham was saying. Tempos! We had this big quarter ogre, three-quarters human, the bad man from Battledale. He'd go over and just Larry somebody, to be hanging people. He hung a drow from a tree. It was an awesome character. He was out there just beating that ass. And it gave me a place to have more details from the authentic, to give that authentic Forgotten Realms feel. I really enjoyed the Abbey of the Swords. We used that setting a good bit, particularly for Big Stag Hapson. Now, it gives you a lot of prestige classes, and of course, it gives you the hairy spider. Don't forget that one. That's worth $32.95 alone. It gives you some some new feats. Of course, it has feats now. I don't know. Maybe they're good. I don't know. If you buy books for feats, whatever. But the prestige classes, they had a lot of flavor in them. That's what I really like. The prestige class can kind of help spark a character idea. I think my favorite one is the Ocular Adept. I really want to play one of those sometime too. The guys that like worship beholders. I remember seeing that in the old Adventure, the AD&D second edition Forgotten Realms book, the Beholder Cult Leader. Even though he looked goofy, I was like, oh, I so want to be a Beholder Cult Leader. That is so awesome. Because Beholders, let's face it, they're more of those kind of Lovecraftian type monsters. And to be so insane that you worship them, I think that's awesome. I want to give you one of them robes of eyes. Yeah, hell yeah, that's going to be tight. Worship me a Beholder. Oh, yes. Yes, I could get with playing the Ocular Adept. From a build standpoint, I don't know what the fuck you're supposed to be doing from it. It doesn't really seem like... There's a lot of prestige classes that didn't really seem like they should be prestige classes. They should be more base classes. Ocular Adept kind of has that feel to it. Because, right off the bat, it's just kind of like being a priest. It's like, fuck you, come back at the 6th level, and we'll talk then. But, I mean, whatever. I liked it. I really want to play an Ocular Adept someday. Very, very high on my to-do character list. And actually, a way where I can make it work with a party where I don't get immediately killed. Now, they also have the Heart Warder, which is, of course, a priest, especially priest of Sunni, which I'm a big fan of. The Wearer Purple were cool. I mean, there's a lot of these are cool, but I'm not talking about them too much. The other places of worship, they really went into a lot of detail on that. I really liked that. That was one of the highlights of the night for the book. Now, it has the Moharandi Pantheon, which is just Egyptian. One of the big things I don't like about Forgotten Realms, they too regionalized things. Like, it has so many scenes everywhere. To me, the gods are the gods. They're not like some gods that were here, then we came from another dimension, brought our gods. I'm an interloper god. And, their pantheon doesn't... Okay, here's the big knock on Forgotten Realms, in my mind, religiously. Their pantheon doesn't make any sense at all. It just doesn't. It's like, I'm an interloper god from here. I survived from this age, and everyone in temples whooped my ass a bunch of times. And, I like... In your classical mythology, it's like, okay, you're this god and this goddess, and they pumped, and they had these kids, and then their kids started fucking each other, and we go down, and we build up cosmology around that way. It damages the cosmology. There's a little bit in there, and I kind of had to stretch some things. I'm like, well, it technically says this and this happened, so Slighting that up around a family aspect a little bit more, I really kind of play up Tempest and Talos being brothers. Because they do make a very slight mention somewhere in there of them kind of being created in the same way. And then, I talk more about the battle with Shar and Selûne where, things were created. And, I get Shantaea for the world. Well, let me talk about some of the deities that I particularly prefer. We are not going to be talking about the Halfling Pantheon. And we are not going to be talking about the Gnome Pantheon. One of the big problems is when you're playing a demi-humans, all that stuff just kind of sucks. You're like, well, there's all these cool gods, and then we have our bitch-ass gods. There's these cool gods, right, that the humans worship, so it just puts the humans way up here. Where they should have just scrapped all that other trash. Like, it's just one pantheon. Like, elves pray to the same gods as humans do, or maybe like you have an elf creator god, he's just part of the pantheon. He's not like something out here. You have an elf. They have like the gods, right? Because they're all supposed to just get their own domains. Like, I am the god of this. It's like, but I'm the elf god of that. I'm the gnome god of that, dummy. It's just like, it's just like, oh, dummy. It doesn't really make any sense. These gods would be at each other. So that's something I really don't like in the Forgotten Realms, how they racially divide things, and then it just starts getting preposterous. You can, I will assure you, cover everything you need to with about 70 divinities. There's a load of redundancy in the Forgotten Realms, and that's one of the big problems with it. However, all that aside, there's enough mythology, enough mystique, enough interest in these deities that I love them. I absolutely love them. All those problems I just hit aside. I have so many ideas, and whenever I play Forgotten Realms, I want to play someone who's full of religion, because I want to embrace one of these. Whether I'm playing a holy divine caster or not, a lay individual, I want to be involved with the church. I want to be all about the church. My favorite god in Forgotten Realms is, of course, Merkel. I'm a big fan of Merkel, have been since I first saw Merkel way, way back. I also really like Suni. She's my favorite goddess. She's awesome. A great goddess of beauty. There's a lot of things that can be done with Suni. I played a follower of Suni before, and I quite enjoy it. She's the most decadence, and there's so many angles and character concepts I can work around Suni. Just right there with those two, man. I can pretty much just do that for the rest of my life. I'm not even kidding you. But what life would be complete without beating that ass Talos style? Talos is of all the deities I have ever seen that are chaotic evil, the absolute most must-play deity of all the chaotic evil deities there are. Of all the chaotic evil deities there are, Talos is the most player-friendly. In fact, I would encourage everyone to play followers of Talos continuously. Talos is badass. Just hit AC/DC Thunderstruck and just beat that ass like you were Bruiser Brody. I didn't give a damn. To me, Talos is a god of strength and fury and vengeance. He's chaotic evil, sure. He's bad things, and yeah, okay, maybe he's grooms as well, but besides all that, he's awesome. And awesome is what you should aspire to. I have a great idea for an orc priest of Talos just to go and just to undeniably beat that ass. And I'm going to have like an enormous side, like a giant, he's going to have like a giant sling, and he's just going to wrestle everyone, like throw it around them and then twist it and then hang them over and throw them, and oh man, we're going to be having some fun, like an orc with like a 19 strength, you're not a hat for it. No, a full ass orc with some dreadlocks and the highest charisma orc can possibly have is, I don't know if that's like a 13 or something. It's probably not very high, but he's gonna have it. Just go around and it's gonna be awesome. You understand? He's very much going to be coming out with a Thunderstruck and worshiping Talos. I think Talos works amazingly for anything that's chaotic evil. The absolute most playability you can get out of a player character. Worship Talos. It should work in a party just fine. You're just an ass-beating barbaric son of a bitch. You enjoy the rain, the storm, the wrath, the thunder, and your wrath will be strong. You will cross those bounds. You will smash those skulls. But you're not causing the problem. You're not, I steal from the party. I cut people's throats while they're asleep. You're not doing that shit. You are not doing that shit as a follower of Talos. So you don't come off the problems. Although you're not orderly. You are bringing the hammer, the spear, the spiked chain, the giant sling, whatever kind of damage you're trying to do. You're going to bring that damage and the excitement and the charisma that you could bring with that character. I really look at Talos as a deity that you can do a lot with as a player character. And all game masters should be encouraged to have that opening. Of course, you have the uncouth Azuth, a true bitch ass, a whack ass god. And it's like, you got Mishra, right, the goddess of magic. And it's like, I'm Azuth, the god of wizards. Man, I'll punch you in the eye, Azuth. Shit. I mean, it's ridiculous. I always looked at that, I was like, are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. Again, I talked about the redundancy. Azuth, also, he's a bitch, you know. And Mishra has her whole little gaggle of bitches. She got Velsharoon, which is cool, because Velsharoon's evil. Crazy, evil witch god. But he's Mishra's bitch. He's under her, which gives a lot of great flavor. For me, Mishra's straight up a bad guy goddess. You ain't playing no follower to Mishra in my game. She's a bad guy to me. Usually how I run my plot lines of the 2 Forgotten Realm games I had, like the number like 1 bad guys out of the game were followers of Mishra. They were, and it worked really, really well, which opened up other things as possibilities. Other things in the non-really playable category, Shar, right off the bat, Shar is just too evil. You know, Shar is, I will cut your throat while you're sleeping. And I don't think Shar is appropriate for a player character, although I do really like Shar. Also, I really like Sirik, even though he started off as a booty human. I guess Merkel did too, but Sirik has so many great things, and I have this Sirik where what can we do for you now? Oh, I can see how it won't be a problem for you. I shall endeavor to make that all better. Yes, in the new glorious world that's coming, we shall have things as they should be. And I talked about my whole Sirik gimmick, and I really enjoy Sirik. I've role played him. I mean, he's the god that's most likely to appear in your ass because he is batshit crazy. You know, yes, I think you should be my new chosen. Serve me here. And the player will start going on about some gibberish. And Sarah's like, well, I'm going to manipulate your ass, break you, and probably kill you tomorrow. But I'll go along with whatever stupid shit you're saying right now. We know who wins this game. Yes. Yes, I think you should go after and kill the people you don't like. Oh, you think so? Oh, yes, yes. I had Sarah just pull up at a bar and start talking to people. You know, it's crazy. You know, and I had to talk. I just want to see what he's talking with one character, and the character's just going off the bar and talking. I'm explaining what the other player's sitting there like, yeah, he's just jabbering all that. Of course, they couldn't see him, right? So he's jabbering off to himself at the bar. Like, because of course they out of character knew what was going on, and in character they're like, what's this fucking ass? Why is this asshole just gibbering? They already didn't like the character, and he was going down the road to becoming a Sirik cultist. Sirik definitely not playable. You will definitely kill the rest of the party when you're playing a follower of Sirik. Great problems there. Now, other than that, I really think the rest of the gods are pretty playable. Bane is a little bit hard. He's very lawful evil. If you really contrive a Bane character together to be playable, it can be done. It can work. If you try to contrive a Bane character and to not be everything you can towards being playable, it ain't gonna work at all. You need a group that is more tolerant of your aspect, and you need to be important. You know, you be the ass kicker of the group, so they're gonna put up with you. Like, well, we don't want to go out there in the litter manifested swamps without Baller McBain over here, the butt kicker from beyond. We need his ass out there with a giant shield and a Morning Star of Terra. We like that. We like not dying, and he helps prevent that for us. So, you know, it can be done. It can be done well. Whereas follower of Sirik really can't be. And a follower of Shar will just stab people in the back too much, too quickly, too easily, over any slight, real or imagined, over things that they weren't even slight. So, again, I don't think that's a good one. Malar is another one that can work. I mean, he's kind of just a Dark Ranger god. I think he works fine. But you have to work with the concept just a little bit. You have a few real gods in the front realms, like Ogma and Tyr and Levitar, which is kind of odd, but I mean, it kind of worked too. You have, I like Tamora. I think Tamora is an interesting god. I've never played a follower of Tamora as a character. I've used them as NPCs. Of course, Tamora temples are everywhere, so I found some interest in that. Lathander. I had played a character who was a dual versus Shantae and Lathander. Actually, no, I played another character in Ravenloft who was a follower of Lathander too. So I've done it more than once, apparently. I guess I like Lathander, I don't know. Helm and Torm, I really think should totally have been collapsed into one god. To me, they're way too close. Like, because you have, is it Helm? I think Torm's a part And then Helm is part of the Trinity. I might have that backwards though. But Ilmater, Tyr, and Helm, I think, are part of like, no, it's Torm. It's Ilmater, Tyr, and Torm that are part of like this Trinity deal. And of course, Ilmater is basically just supposed to be Jesus. That's, you know, is Jesus. It's Forgotten Realm of Jesus. And it can be kind of interesting, you know. You can do some interesting stuff with Ilmater. I made a character who was a Tiefling. I had a 7 Constitution. I didn't do that because they were on 3d6. I wanted a real low Constitution. So I said, okay, he's like afflicted, like his demonic self is damaging him because he's trying to fight against it so much. So he's like all ravaged by it, and he's like purely lawful good. He's like real lawful good. He's not like, I was so good that I'll kill you. You know, I lost a sword through your head. He's like, no, I'm not going to take life. I'm not going to do that. You know, I followed quarterstaff, but I mean, he didn't fight nothing. He didn't exist. He never got played. But you know, one of my man Rob's games, it just never happens. So I mean, that would have been an interesting character. But you have a couple. You have a god called Hor. Yes, the name is Hor. You know, just like yeah, a little bit weird there. The god of vengeance, and I guess you'd be pretty goddamn vengeful too if you were called Hor. Hey, Hor! I can't even get mad at you for saying that. Shut up. Sharis, who's also Bast, kind of interesting. And they have the politics between the gods is anything that I really like. The way that they have this interlock between the different gods. I really enjoy it a lot. Of course, you see Tyr to death. I've seen so many people worship Tyr. It's like over and over and over again. I mean, there's just an abundance of followers of Tyr all over the place. And Tyr's one of my least favorite deities from Norse mythology. I am definitely an Odin man, or bar that, maybe get with some of the giants or even Loki. But Tyr, I like him doll. Let's not forget about him. But yeah, now I'm kind of torn on Shunduckle. I think some of the things about Shunduckle are a little dumb, and some of the other things are kind of interesting. The elemental gods like Grumbar, I think, provide some interest. Jurgle, I thought the idea of him getting tired of being a god was kind of weird. He looks like a praying mantis. The fact that you have in this book, you can see, you know, all these like pictures like that, and then there's pictures where the gnomes worship a big mole, apparently. You have the symbols there, and Lyra. I didn't follow Lyra. Actually, I know a lot about this guy now with these scarlet mummers. Lyra was the first deity that in any of the campaign settings that they actually brought on and had her do homosexual stuff. Like she had like a follower of hers who was a female. During the time of trouble, she came and they got their, let's be honest, on. And then I think the follower got killed by the followers of Lovatar, who was all about messing with their, you know, like arch rivals. So that kind of gave some good game fodder. I think things that I use that in my game extensively. I think Lyra with the Scarlet Mummers, like this almost assassin order she has working for her to get that get her vengeance. There's a lot of interesting ways you can bring that. I really like this picture of the Shiva too. So in closing, I'm going to show you that. I think that's pretty neat. You know, reminds me of that I-69 Gothic Girl song. I mean, they definitely try a little bit hard there. You know, it's like typo negative trying hard, but. Yeah, anyway, that's my review. This is definitely a quintessential book to buy for the Forgotten Realms line. Outside of the base campaign setting, this is the number 2 book that you need. If you have those 2 books, really, 3rd edition Forgotten Realms, you're pretty much good to go. The rest of the books are very much superfluous in considering the importance of these 2. Not that some of them aren't important, but these are definitely the 2 that you need both of them. The Forgotten Realms campaign setting and Faiths Pantheons, and after that you can roll. Overall, let me know what you think. Let me know who your favorite god is. Let me know why you think Talos is the biggest badass of all time. And just keep the comments coming.